I think that the 7th generation Pontiac Grand Prix is quite possibly the best sedan that GM has ever made. And this version, the GTP, I think is quite possibly one of the best bargains out there for a performance sedan that you can buy today. Let's get into it.
Obviously, Brendan likes this car a lot. I am maybe a more well-adjusted human being, so to counter Brendan's enthusiasm, I am also going to jump in per his request to help balance things out a little bit.
Now, the entry-level engine that came in these Grand Prix was a 3.1 liter V6 pumping out about 175 horsepower. But if you stepped up to the GT, you got the 3.8 or the 3800 Series 2 V6, which is one of the best V6s from any American manufacturer ever made, at least as far as reliability goes. Now, that power was bumped up to 200, but this, the GTP, has a supercharger slapped on top of that 3800 Series 2 engine, bumping power up to 240 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque.
Now look, every car enthusiast, myself included, loves a supercharger, and that's great on this car, but what's not so great is the dated styling. It looks like GM took one of their boring everyday sedans and tried to put a body kit on it, which I think is pretty much exactly what they did. So you have all of these angular bits, you've got these funky tri-spoke-ish wheels, you've got a mirror that lets air pass through it, but come on, it's still a crummy old Pontiac.
Now, although Case may not like the styling on this, I actually love the styling on this because they took that W body platform that you saw as far as like the Impala, the Monte Carlo, the Buick Century, and a few others, and they gave it a really aggressive look. In fact, they called this the wide track look because of its sporty appearance from Pontiac.
Another thing Brendan can't see through his rose-colored glasses is this interior for what it is, which is, there's no other way to put it, it's cheap GM plastic. I mean, listen to that noise. It's kind of funky the way that these cup holders pop out, but ugh, it's not the best. And yeah, I mean, this is all kids' toy plastic. It is just the cheapest stuff that you can find. I will give this car this, though. While the gauge cluster isn't all that interesting, it does have a pretty cool funky screen here in the middle that even shows you a little boost gauge, and even I like that. Pontiac, however, did not think that you deserved a heated seat for your passenger. There's one heated seat, but it's only for the driver.
I want to take you out for a spin in this because the driving part is really what makes these so special, in my opinion, because you have a relatively comfortable sedan,
right?
But then you have a V6 with a supercharger on it. Granted, it's powering the front wheels, but it gives it a little bit of extra excitement.
Well, yeah, let's see what this acceleration is like when we pull onto the road here. I mean,
probably not going to compete necessarily with like a BMW M5.
No, I think certainly not.
You know, but if you think about some of the other sedans of the era, you know, like the Dodge Intrepid and...
Yeah, not exactly stiff competition.
The Ford Taurus SHO, which would probably compete directly with this.
Those are pretty cool.
Yeah, but keep in mind, by that time, they had the V8, which, you know, it wasn't as powerful as this, and it was heavier. All right, give it a little bit of boost there.
It's not slow.
No.
I'll say that much.
I mean, it picks up and moves, and, you know, maybe I'm a little bit nostalgic for this car.
Because you've actually got a pretty personal story related to this specific model.
Exactly, yeah. So when I was in high school, I had a Toyota Celica as my first car. And, of course, as a 16-year-old, being the only car I'd ever really driven, other than the cars I learned how to drive on, I thought that thing was the best thing out since sliced bread. You know, I thought that was the fastest car on the road, and then my friend gave me a ride in his Pontiac Grand Prix GTP, and it was the first time where I was like, oh, cars can be fast. Mine is not. And ever since then, I've wanted one.
Of course, you know, now that we're in the 2020s, so your average car is just a lot faster than it used to be. But also because we do this for a living and we've gotten to drive a lot of things, including you driving a Ford GT not that long ago, or riding in
I got
one.
to ride in one. Yeah, this is certainly no Ford GT.
The bar has moved a long way since then, but even so, I can understand being nostalgic for a car. And look, you know, as much as we like to have fun doing a know you're wrong kind of back and forth, I can understand being into cars that maybe objectively aren't that great, because, I mean, that's how I am. I pretty much exclusively buy bad vehicles. So
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Well, Case, I don't think this review would be complete if I didn't at least let you take it out for a spin.
Yeah, might as well. All right, let me feel this supercharger for myself. You know, it's not going to tear your face off, but...
No, it's no powerhouse, but...
you get up to speed pretty decent.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it in relation to the cars of the era, you know, especially out here in Colorado, a naturally aspirated car versus something that's got forced induction is going to always feel better, in my opinion. You know,
here's the other thing that we really haven't talked about in detail yet, but that you have to keep in mind with this. And, you know, again, I mean, I can bad talk aspects of this car for the sake of this video all we want, but at the end of the day, you paid how much for this?
Well, with auction fees, because I did get it at a dealer auction, I paid $1,300.
Yeah,
all in on this guy. And
at $1,300. I mean, it's hard to really poke holes in anything, because a running car for $1,300 in today's world is a pretty good deal.
Well, not only that, you have a running car with a boost gauge.
Yeah.
With a heads-up display.
And it's supercharged, and this interior is really very intact. I mean, your seats aren't ripped. It's held up really well. It's got 215,000 miles, and in the long term, especially with a supercharged motor, I would be wary of that a little bit. But this car overall is held up really well. However, there are some weak points on these mechanically.
Yeah, absolutely. So these automatic transmissions, which is a 4-speed automatic, aren't really built to handle this kind of power. Like, they were built to handle the 3800 series engine just fine, but once you slap a supercharger on it,
just haphazardly.
Yeah, they are kind of known to go through transmissions. In fact, my buddy of mine that did own one during high school basically said, he's like, just whatever you do, don't do highway pulls, because pretty much 1 out of 3 times I did a highway pull, it caused a transmission problem. So,
wow, that's a startling figure. I mean, those are pretty consistent numbers right there. 1 out of 3.
Now, he may have been a little bit, fluffing his numbers a little bit there, but
up a bit.
I think the point is you have to kind of be gentle on these transmissions. Now, launching it from a start, they're actually pretty good, but it's just when you're into that high speed, like let's say you're going 50 miles an hour, you mash the throttle and it shifts down a gear, that's when you can have problems on these.
Either way, for $1,300, this car seems to me a pretty screaming deal. I mean, a supercharged sedan that's more interesting than your average sedan, and for that amount of money, even I would have a hard time poking holes in that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that I at least helped you come around to my point of view a little bit on this car. And I want to know what you guys think in the comments section below. Is this one of the best sedans, or at least the best performance sedan that you can buy for the money today? Because you can find these all over the place for less than $5,000, and they're going to be a great vehicle for you. But thank you guys so much for watching.
Absolutely.